right. Hello, everybody. This is episode 19 of the Treat Dogs Like Dogs podcast. And today I'm gonna go over a lot of stuff, a whole lot of stuff, the ins and outs of shelters, shelter dogs, what to expect, what not to expect, and what we do wrong as pet owners in regards to acquiring these dogs. I also want to go over some other stuff like the shop and adopt and the controversy there and my opinions on things. So I guess we'll just jump right into it. So I've had a lot of conversations lately about, should you adopt? Should you shop? The adopt, don't shop thing, that's been around since the 80s. And then we have the more nuanced, adopt or shop responsibly. And a lot of people get things, mixed up. We like to be human, so we're going to be emotional about things and emotionally invested. But when it comes to our dogs, we should really be thinking more analytically, on if this is the right dog for us in our environment. So, so I actually have in front of me quite a bit of different statistics that I can go over. And give me a second. There is a mosquito that I want to destroy. All right. All right. So, all right. Okay. So the whole idea of adopt, don't shop, it was a campaign that was started in the 1980s to encourage people to adopt from shelters and rescues instead of buying from pet stores and supporting the puppy mills and backyard breeders and things like that. And the whole idea behind that is to save as many shelter dogs as possible. They believe that, adopting prevents the support of questionable breeding practices and puppy mills that are often associated with pet stores. Uh, but if you actually buy a dog from an ethical breeder, you will never find an ethically bred dog in a shelter unless something royally weird happened. Because these ethical breeders are going to have contracts in place to where if they don't want the dog goes back to the ethical breeder. They usually also tag these dogs, microchip. And so that way, when they get to the shelters, the breeder becomes aware and they get that dog returned to them. So I would say, with that said, even shopping with an ethical breeder where the whole adopt or shop responsibly, the nuances behind that is you're also encouraging the decrease of puppy mill dogs and backyard breeding. Um, Now when it comes to shelters though, you're not going to know what you're going to get. It's going to be extremely rare that you're going to get a purebred dog from a shelter. Only around 5% of the dogs in shelters are purebred. That leaves 95% to be mixes, right? And you're not going to know what you get. Even if the shelter tells you what they think the dog is, it's likely going to be wrong. Here, I pulled up the actual statistics for you. So, shelter staff are typically only 67% accurate at identifying a dog's primary or secondary breed based on its genetic profile. Accuracy drops to 10% when when staff identify more than one breeds, right? So, 67% accurate identifying a dog's primary or secondary breed. But it drops to 10%. I'll repeat that 10% when it's identifying more than one breed. So when it's mixed breeds, right? Um, so again, 5% are going to be purebred, so that 67% accurate is going to be 5% of those dogs. Now, when it comes down to it, let's see. It says for over 80% of shelter dogs, the breed designation they receive from the shelter does not match the breed and the breeds in their DNA test. Um, that's pretty severe, right? Um, Another study showed only 33% of dogs were correctly identified in the shelters. So again, you're likely not going to know what you're going to get, which means that you may be thinking you're getting, let's say, a Labrador Retriever mix. and it might not be a Labrador Retriever mix, and you might just be thinking, "Oh, I'm going to have a great biddable, food motivated dog," and you're going to end up with the exact opposite. And this actually leads me to understanding what you're getting. Shelters are also really, really bad at giving you an outline or overview of what the dog's behaviors are like. And it's not because they're lying to you to get more dogs adopted. Most of the time, they're not. Most of the time, what's happening is dogs are really, 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 really in tune to changes in their lives and they get very stressed out. So when you have very large environmental changes, when you have new people in and out all the time, lots of different smells, lots of sounds, lots of other dogs, and so on. So many things going on. It's going to extremely, extremely stress that dog out. And when you stress that dog out to that degree, you're flooding the dog. The dog is likely to emotionally shut down. And this is why a lot of times you'll have stuff like a shelter saying, "Oh, this dog is great around cats. It doesn't react towards cats." And then months later, when the dog is adopted and finally feels at home and can be its natural self, it's trying to kill the family cat and it gets returned back to the shelter. You guys lied to me. They didn't lie to you. Just from what they could see while the dog was shut down, um, it wasn't attacking cats at the time. So, so that actually, I have more studies over here. Let's see. There was a where is it at? Let me see here. Bear with me for just a second. This one, yes. Rescued pet statistics. So, 60% of adopted pets are no longer in their adoptive homes 6 months later after their initial adoption, and 20% of the adopted pets are returned back to the original shelters. That's a huge number. That is a huge number, especially compared to the amount of dogs that are in shelters. There's nearly 3.4 million dogs as of this year. There's 3.4 million dogs in the shelter systems. 20% of that going back to the shelter, 60% of them being rehomed within the first 6 months is extremely telling. So I mean, it could be numerous different things. It could be that somebody just, impulse got a dog from a shelter, and then within 6 months, they're like, "Yeah, this isn't right for me," and they rehome the dog, right? When they're being returned back to the shelters, it could be the same thing, but a lot of times it's because these dogs have behavioral issues due to a plethora of different things, and most people don't know how to handle these dogs with behavioral issues. So if we lead back to the whole shop, right? Go ahead, shop. I shop. One of my dogs I got from a ethical breeder. Two of my dogs, one was found, and the other one was a abandoned dog, abandoned board and train with me, but my dog now. But even so, that abandoned board and train was also bought from a breeder by the original owner. Uh, there's nothing wrong with getting a dog from a breeder. It's just as long as you do your research, right? You're not going to want to just see a dog on TV and say, "I want that dog." Don't do that. Don't do that. No, if that, excuse me, if that breed of dog is correct for your home environment. So, so as far as general statements go, I don't like general statements when it comes to dogs, but you can generalize dogs to a degree based on the breed. Because every breed is going to have behavioral traits that is very common across that entire breed. If you go to a ethical breeder that's breeding well-bred dogs, um, then you are going to be within breed standard. And if you're within breed standard, it's likely you're going to know kind of what to expect with that dog when it comes to their genetic behaviors. And that's going to really, really help you figure out what kind of dog you need. On top of that, what is the reason? What's the purpose, right? Are you going to have the dog working in some degree? Are you going to have the dog doing sports? Are you going to have the dog just as a companion dog? And so on. There's so many nuanced things to think about before you go and buy a dog or adopt a dog. But if you're going to adopt a dog, it's going to really be throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. Now, as far as general statements with breeds, it's Gonna have some outliers, for sure. There's always outliers within every breed and within every litter. Um, so be aware of that as well and ask the right questions. We'll have to do a podcast eventually on the right questions to ask when you're going to be buying from a breeder. So there's nothing wrong. I prefer to know exactly what I'm getting in a dog, so that way I can raise the dog how I need to raise the dog. So that way that dog is set up for success. Uh, and it's going to be almost 100,000% that dog will never ever need to be rehomed or see a shelter, right? So that's my take on that. Now, well-bred dogs. What is a well-bred dog? Is a well-bred dog a purebred dog? Not necessarily. You can have a purebred dog and not be well-bred. You can have a well-bred dog and it's going to be purebred if it's well-bred. But doesn't necessarily mean it's ethically bred either. There's differences in those phrases in terms of purebred dog just means that it's a lineage of, let's say, German Shepherds. His parents were German Shepherds, their parents were German Shepherds, and so on, right? It's just they are 100% German Shepherd. Now, a well-bred dog is a German Shepherd that they're going to keep within breed standards, right? And they're going to be testing the genetics, the health of that dog. There's just a lot that is involved with it. Now, when it comes to the ethical breeding practices, the ethical breeding practices is going to be more of the human side of things, right? Um, do they have a contract in place to make sure that that dog gets back to you? What is their home environment like? How are they breeding? Are they breeding solely for profit and so on? So there are differences in that. So be aware that just because something's purebred doesn't mean it's well-bred. Just because they're purebred or well-bred does not mean that it's ethically bred. So do your homework if you're going to buy. Absolutely do your homework. Now, let's see. I do have a lot of notes here. So yeah, so don't be afraid to go get a trainer. Sometimes, especially when you get dogs from a shelter and there ends up being behavioral issues, sometimes it's hard to get through that. Especially for somebody that is not a pet care professional and even other pet care professionals that are not behaviorists or trainers. It's going to be really hard sometimes to get through stuff. Go get a trainer. There's nothing wrong with getting a trainer, especially to set it up for success. And if you happen to see your dog doing unwanted behaviors that could potentially be dangerous, start working on it right then and there. Don't ignore it and say, oh, that's just a one-off. Because if they rehearse the behavior, it's likely they're going to rehearse it again if nothing is done about it. So it can get worse and worse and worse. So let's see here. Give me a second. Looking through stuff. So yeah, I just went through that all very fast, y'all. I'll go to my notes. I have other topics that I've jotted down over the last few days. Uh, but but yeah, so yeah, let's not stray away from the shelter talk. So, kill shelters versus non-kill shelters. What is the difference? All right, so kill shelters are completely okay with euthanizing dogs for whatever reason they see fit. No kill shelters only have to save 90% of their population. So let's go with that 3.4 million dogs. Let's say every single shelter in the United States was a no-kill shelter. They cannot kill more than 10% of their population. That's still 340,000 dogs that they're allowed to kill every year, right? And it can be for any reason. And I personally believe that kill shelters are completely acceptable and fine. Overcapacity, that's fine. Most dogs that enter the shelters anyway are not dogs that are surrendered. It's dogs that are found in the streets strays. Uh, it's a problem. It's not just a problem because they're burdensome, or is that the word burdensome? They're a burden. Burden. Anyway, it's not because they're a burden. It's detrimental to this to society, and they're also, potentially dangerous to other people and other animals. That goes the same way with feral cat colonies. Extremely bad for the environment. Extremely. And it's not just, oh, they kill a bunch of birds. They spread diseases across numerous animals. They destroy native flora. and the fauna, destroy ecosystems and different habitats. It's not good across the board, and something needs to be done. The soft culling, which would be the spay, neuter, release type program, catch, neuter, and release CNR, yeah, and it's not effective enough. There's not enough of it to be able to completely diminish the population. So, rounding up and then euthanizing is really, it sucks. It does suck, but it's a necessary evil because we're the ones that created the evil in the first place. So we have to do something about it. Um, I'm gonna stop preaching on that though. But yeah, so I am not a big fan of the adopt don't shop, specifically because it doesn't really do much when it comes to the whole actual problem. Puppy mills, backyard breeding, irresponsible owners with accidental litters. It doesn't help with that at all. What's going to help is educational topics like this, right? As well as getting dogs from the appropriate sources. If we start telling people, get your dogs well bred from an ethical breeder all the time, right? If that's what we made to become normalized, there's going to be a whole lot less dogs inside shelters. First off, you're spending money, so you are investing in this animal, right? Shelters have free days. Come and get your dog for free. Come get your cat for free, right? Ethical breeders aren't going to have that. Ethical breeders are also not going to be giving their dogs to just anybody for the sake of somebody wanting a dog. Uh, that's good. That's great. Not everybody needs a dog. Even if they want one really, really, really bad, not everybody needs a dog. It's just not appropriate for everybody. Um, that's why we have these issues like we do. Uh, if we're questioning, like, why do we have to kill, excuse me, itchy nose, why do we have to kill dogs and cats because of overpopulation? My question is why do we keep, overbreeding? Why do we keep abandoning? Why do we keep relinquishing? Why do we keep having those accidental litters? Why do we keep allowing the humans to not, take responsibility for their own actions? It's the shelter's fault for killing dogs and cats. No, it's the human before that's fault for doing all the things they do. So adopt if you want to, that's fine. Shop if you want to, that's fine. Right? But do it right. Just do it right. Know what you're getting into, right? So I've been seeing a lot of topics around online lately, primarily TikTok because I tend to, you know, doom scroll. And what I see a lot of times is I'll see topics of people talking about, poodles. No, not poodles, doodles, for instance, Frenchies, mutts, mixes, and they're basically talking about unethical breeding, really, and practices like that. And any type of dog that is a quote unquote designer dog is a backyard bred or puppy mill dog 100% of the time. Dogs are supposed to have a purpose, right? And if the purpose of creating these dogs is because they are fashionable, then that's just somebody trying to make profit, and that's not okay. Uh, every dog in existence that is well bred is supposed to have some behavioral traits genetically for some kind of job, right? Whether it be herding, hunting, scenting, retrieving, guardian, livestock guardian dogs, even dog fighting dogs. That was their original purpose. The pit bull terrier, the American pit bull terrier. I'm just going to call it pit bull going forward because that's what it is. So the pit bull was originally bred for dog fighting through and through, and then it has been able to be used as a hunting dog, and that's fine. Take its genetics and then put it to work somewhere else, right? Uh, And just to let everybody know, I don't condone dog fighting. I actually call those people out and work very heavily to put an end to it in all fronts, right? So just to let everybody know that if you have an inkling of an idea that somebody may be a dog fighter, DM me with whatever information you can. I'm really good at finding information and I get it to the right sources. Okay, so beyond that, pit bull terriers, right? The problem with the statistics on pit bulls being so dangerous, I'm not saying they can't be dangerous. And I can say all dogs can be dangerous, but genetically, pit bulls were designed to be aggressive towards other dogs and other animals, right? That's in their genetics. You can never outtrain genetics. You can absolutely dampen or give a better outlet, but you'll never outtrain it. So that's something to be aware of. And I'm not talking about your shelter dog where it's a mutt, because that's what you're going to find in shelters. I'm talking about a bloodline pedigree pit bull, right? And I see it all the time where people think pit bulls are nanny dogs, and that's no dog is a livestock guardian dog for children. That's extremely dangerous. If your small children are going to be around your dogs, make sure that you are within reach as well. Kids suck with dogs. They suck with dogs so much. Adults suck with dogs too, but kids are worse, right? If your kid's not, then you have an outlier of a kid and you're doing things right. Kudos to you. Uh, but yeah, the statistics are skewed, right? Anything with a blocky head is labeled a pit bull terrier these days, and it might be within a different bull breed, whether it's be a Staffordshire Terrier, Terrier, American Bully, a English Bulldog, American Bulldog, a Bullen Terrier, and so on. Like there's a lot of different bull breeds, but everybody thinks that his blocky head means pit bull. I've even seen Labrador retrievers like the English Lab. Looks different, very different dog than the American Labrador, right? And it has a blockier head, and I've seen people think those are pit bulls, right? So anything that people think is a pit bull, they're going to label as a pit bull a lot of times, and then when the dog bites somebody, they're going to say, "Oh, there's another number on the statistics," right? And when that's not always the case. It's not always the pit bull. So those numbers and statistics are definitely skewed, but we do see a lot of bull mutts in shelters. That's going to be the majority of dogs in shelters are going to be bull mutts, which is an issue. Definitely an issue. But it makes you think sometimes, why is this, right? Why are there so many bully type breeds in the shelter systems? Is it a demographic of people that want these breeds and then they can't handle these breeds and they just abandon these breeds? Don't know. Don't know. Uh, I'm just gonna say it's you know we romanticize the breed a lot. We have all these rumors and myths about them being the perfect nanny dogs and so on. People get them. They don't neuter or spay. They have these accidental litters, and then they have no way to get rid of these accidental litters. They put them in the shelters. That's what I'm gonna think is the most reason. It's just poor ownership. So y'all tell people to do better. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to assume you are doing better than the average because not many people that I know are going to look into and listen this far into a podcast about this type of stuff unless they're really taking on in information and they're trying to learn. So I appreciate that, y'all. Really do. So that's my rant about the pit bull terriers. You're going to have a lot of people that are like, well, what about chihuahuas? You know, yeah, they can be, reactive, skittish, little dogs, but they're small dogs are not going to be reported nearly as much as big dogs. They're also treated extremely differently because it's a lot easier and less dangerous. I'm not saying it's not dangerous, but little dogs are not going to do as much damage as an 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 pound dog, 120 pound dog, right? I was just actually watching a video the other day. I'm gonna pull it up. We'll watch it together. It's on TikTok. And by the way, this is with a Cane Corso, and it's a photographer that was doing a photo shoot with this dog, and the dog attacked her, and she ended up with pretty gnarly lacerations and puncture wounds. Cane Corsos are mastiffs. They're not bull dogs of any sort. Just so you know. And it's Cane Corso. It's not Cane Corso. It's Malinois. It's not Malinois. Uh, just so you know. Uh, let's see. It's gonna be under. I think I reposted it. Let me find this real quick for us. Reposted, reposted. Here it is. We're gonna listen to this real quick. I'll put it up to my mic, I guess, so we can hear it. But I mean, this lady shook. And she can't show the video right now for legal purposes, but I've had the rundown. We have another trainer that's been working with her directly. I'll get into that here in a minute. So here it is. It's kind of long, so bear with us, but
yesterday was not a good day. I cried most the entire day. And so I will probably cry. Uh, it's going to be a little long because I'm going to try to get through like everything and answer questions that have been asked. I will show a video of what kind of what happened and explain. At no point in time am I going to show my clients. I'm not going to tell you their names. The video will be cropped to not show anyone. It won't be the full video that I have. It is dramatic to listen to. But what I actually want you to take away is if this ever happens to you, what I did in the moment, I don't know how it came to me and what I knew, but it saved my life. 37 seconds, my life could have been much different. And I could have died easily. So I'm going to show you the little clip. So I've been replaying the day in my head leading up to it at the session. I did not know it would be Cane Corsos until midway during the session when they were going to bring the dogs out. She gave them anti-anxiety meds, told me a message, and I replied with, as long as they don't bite me. I don't know. I have photographed in 14 years, hundreds of dogs. I don't know if I've ever said that to a client. So at the session, again, she said he doesn't bite. And I laughed and said, yeah, I just had this feeling. This is before I even seen the dogs. And then the first one came out and he was really fine. He was older. And I saw him like wagging his tail. So I didn't have a problem. And when she went to go get the other dog, I asked the son, hey, how is he around strangers? And he said, I don't know. Because I don't think he's ever been around a stranger. He might have. I really have no clue. But watching the video back, I don't know what happened. I don't. You could see that I didn't provoke him at all. He just bolted. Uh, when she was trying to get him, she couldn't get him. So the part that saved my life is I knew to stay close to them. I knew I couldn't run. If I ran, I would have died. But the Cane Corso pressure is 700 compared to a pit bull's of 200, to just to put in perspective. And I kept turning. Thank God there was like a telephone pole in their yard, and I kept turning my body like towards her around the pole so that I had something to work with, and I kept maneuvering my body. and I kept moving. I stayed up so calm. She was yelling and screaming in the background. You could hardly hear me in the video. The first time he bit me, it was my back, and it did not puncture. And you can hear me say in the video, he bit me. And then the second time he bit me was my arm. And I thank God that I was maneuvering around and moving, because as you can tell, this is my lovely scar and my hole in the back right there. That if he did not puncture, he did not like go in, and it was a like a rip and then a puncture. So he didn't grab a hold, because I knew that if he grabbed a hold of me, I wouldn't have an arm, or I would probably be dead. They were not strong enough to get him off of me. Because I was moving, he couldn't latch on. He went after me twice more. At that time, I did hold my camera out, and I did for a split millisecond debated over what was more valuable, my camera, because I knew it would probably get bit, or my life. Obviously, my life. So then the son let go, or she was calling the son over, and in the video, I didn't know this until after I watched the video, because I was so into the dog that was lunging at me that he let go of the other Cane Corso, and I thank God that that dog did not have a herd mentality and went after me. He was very close to me, and I didn't have that feeling towards him. But that doesn't mean, because like with my dogs, if one of them barks and like runs at something, the other two are gone. They're barking. They have no clue what they're barking and running for, but they're there. So I'm just glad like he didn't try to come after me too, because again, I wouldn't be here. The clip from start to finish, I have the full clip, but the clip from start to finish is 37 seconds. So 37 seconds from me. Oh, those hurt my face. From the start to the time I think I got into the car, or got the plan to get into the car. That's all it took. Like, that I could have been dead. I think my pics are fighting. Um, so I have no clue what's going to happen to the dog. New York State law has a one bite forgiveness, so I don't think the dog will be put down. The rabies shots are up to date as far as I know, because I did not have to get rabies shots. I'm going to have a nasty scar, and I am in more emotional pain than I am in regular pain right now. My next thing is, I have always trusted everyone. All of my clients, I trust you. I trust you that you're going to bring me or not put me in situations that would cause me harm. Just like I would not put you in situations that cause you harm. That they trust that I had. It's whoever have been photographed by me, I had no problem being next to your dog, or I would even get it to sit for you. I have picked them up. Again, because there has always been that like trust, even though I know dogs can turn. There's just always been that trust of like, you won't put me in harm's way, and your dog is not mean. So I I do have anxiety really bad. And my chest already gets tight when I see another dog, which sucks. I will probably get a tattoo that says 37 seconds because that's what's stuck in my mind. And I am so thankful for being alive. And I did not think I would cry this entire time. So I am sorry. I really don't have any sarcasm at this point. I just want you to know that, like, if a photographer says no about they won't photograph dogs, just be okay with it. Don't say shit about them because something might have happened and they are protecting themselves. And don't run and maneuver your body. If I was frozen, I would have been dead.
Okay, so all right, so yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. So the actual video of those dogs is not public due to litigation. It can't be public right now. But I have been in contact with another colleague of mine who actually has been in contact with this person and has seen the videos through and through, and actually gave me a little rundown of what was going on. I'll read you a little bit of our conversation. Let's see. He contacted me first. He's like, "You know that video you shared of the photographer lady who got attacked by the Corso?" I responded with, "Yeah, I am needing to make a follow-up video going through details. There's a lot to discuss about the situation." Um, he said, "I talked to her today, got all the info from her, including the videos and bite pictures. She's meeting with an attorney, though pending litigation, so I can't share the videos." Gotcha. Yeah, I just wanted to deep dive safety, how she is completely valid to feel emotional, and canine body language, as well as talk about the moments I learned I can't trust pet owners when, you know, certain situations happen to me. I'll get into that soon. But I told him that I feel for her 100%. He says, "Yep, went over all that with her, told her all the red flags I heard and talked her through the PTSD side of being attacked by a dog." It's important. Um so he said it was a young, immature and inexperienced Corso, and that's what saved her. And he continues, yeah, she thought she survived a murder attempt, fair because she's just a civilian, but I helped break it down for her and gave her some peace of mind. Um, and then if when um if and when she gives this gentleman the okay, he's going to do a series on it. So his name on TikTok is Dan the Dog Man. I'll try to put it in the description, but it's the at symbol, the veteran dog trainer, Dan the Dog Man. Um, he's good people's. He does a lot of B mod, has his own facility. But yeah, we talked a little more about it, but I'm gonna go over some things. So, couple things, right? If you are working with animals in any capacity, especially dogs, dogs are opportunistic predators with knives in their mouths, right? Yeah, they're domesticated, but at a baseline, that's what they are. They're still wolves. They're not related to any modern day wolves. It was wolf ancestors, right? Jeez, my nose is itchy today, y'all. But they're still opportunistic predators with knives in their mouths, right? If you're going to work with dogs at any capacity, whether it be photography, pet sitting, dog walking, obviously training and behaviorism, veterinarian, medicine, vet tech, chiropractic, anything you do with dogs, you should absolutely 100% at least know different canine behaviors, like body language. You should also know a little bit about learning theory, whether it be classical conditioning or operant conditioning, but you need to know about that stuff. This stuff is going to go a very, very long way in your career, and it will keep you fucking safe. And that's what we want. We want you to be safe. So there was a bunch of red flags in that video that I heard, and as well as Dan heard it. And as he said, it was a young, inexperienced, immature Corso that saved her. But looking at that gash on her, but with a single puncture on the back, I have been bit. I have been torn up plenty of times, right? Uh, the only time I've ever had a gash like that is towards the early years of me working with reactivity and aggression, or just instinctively the dog latched on and then I pulled away. And because of me pulling away, it created a laceration rather than a puncture, right? Not saying that it wouldn't have been a laceration. It depends on what's happening with the dog movements, things like that. Um, okay. Sorry about that, y'all. Uh, where was I getting it? Yeah, it could have been worse depending on, depending on different factors. But other things that um I was told by Dan is that the dog was already stiff, already staring her down from a distance, just locked on. And the moment that the owner looked away, holding this leash, the dog took off, and the owner didn't have good enough grip on the leash. The dog took off and ran at her, right? And she, even at a distance, she really didn't have a lot of time to react, especially somebody that doesn't work with aggressive or reactive dogs all the time. You're probably not going to be able to react appropriately anyway, regardless. So that shit happened. Uh, but I'm sure there were plenty of other signs. I'm sure not just the stiffness of the dog and staring her down. I'm sure there were other signs of stress, absolutely other signs of stress. And the very first red flag that I heard was when she said the owner told her that the dog doesn't bite other people, but they don't know if the dog's ever been around strangers. It's like, how can you own a dog and not know if your own dog has ever been around strangers? Unless it was an adopted dog. But if it was a young Cane Corso, it's likely not adopted. I don't know where they got it from, so there may be some genetic stuff in there. But knowing Cane Corsos and most breeders of Cane Corsos, um, it's likely not going to be genetics. It's poor handling, poor ownership, just poor understanding of dogs on the photographer's end, and so on. But her emotions are valid, extremely valid. Her PTSD in this, like, if you have never been attacked by a dog before and then it happens, you're gonna absolutely think you're about to get murdered. And that's what the dog was trying to do, is murder you. It's likely not what the dog is trying to do when they're attacking you. They're probably not trying to murder you. But it is scary. It's traumatic. It is an experience, and you have to work through these things sometimes. And sometimes you don't, I guess. It's up to you, but you can. You can absolutely work through them and understand that that's not all dogs, that's outliers, and expose yourself appropriately to the right dogs. But her saying that, she trusts her, you know, pet peoples that she's doing photography for to not put her in those dangerous situations, right? Anybody that's working this industry long enough, doesn't matter what side of the industry, you will eventually be humbled. because there's going to be one owner out there that doesn't tell you everything or does something stupid that creates a dangerous situation for you, right? It happened to me actually. The one really big time where I was caught off guard, and this is well after I started doing this kind of work. Um, I was caught completely off guard. I broke two ribs, got my hand bit. I had to get my scrotal sac glued back together. Like it was a bad, bad time. Um, so to break down the story in the cliff notes, highly aggressive and reactive dog, emotions everywhere. I made a quick realization that this dog has a very perverse sense of resource guarding the owner, the female owner, not the boyfriend. And so I told her to go inside and don't come out unless I send somebody to get you. And so she goes inside. The dog immediately is allowing me to handle the lead rather than attacking and lunging and stuff while somebody else is holding the lead. And the dog willingly accepted treats from me. It's like, great, okay. The dog was still stiff, ears were pinned, tail tucked. It wasn't happy, but it was being very, 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 very low on the violence scale comparison to what it was before. Like right when I showed up and it saw me from a distance, it literally almost did a full climb and muscle up over their chain link fence to get to me. Like I went up quick and kind of just pushed it off. It's like, no, 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 get your dog, right? But here's a couple things I did wrong. I did not check the muzzle, and the owners didn't appropriately secure the muzzle on, so the bottom strap of the muzzle was not connected to the leash, so that's where it was able to slip up eventually, and that's where the dog was able to bite me. Before it slipped up was like I think five muzzle punches in a row that broke two of my ribs. But what caused all of this was I asked the boyfriend if any other trainer they've gone through, God knows how many trainers so far that just won't work with this dog. And has trainer ever been able to handle the dog? And he said, no, never. The dog's a psycho, is what he said, quote unquote. Well, dog mommy heard that somebody called her dog a psycho and she got offended, right? Her baby got called a psycho. Ma'am, your dog was a psycho. Nonetheless, digress. She came outside so that way she can voice, my dog's not a psycho, right? Right when she did that, I looked up because it caught me off guard. Dog sees her and immediately changes tune and just attacks, right? That was the one time I realized that I can never, ever trust people, ever trust people, right? I can trust the dog in front of me. I can trust myself. I cannot trust the people. It's going to take a while for me to be able to trust certain clients. And then even after I do, I'm going to be extremely, extremely quick to creating safety protocols for myself, them, and everybody else around, right? So that was my story. Everybody's going to eventually have a story. It might not be that severe, but everybody's going to have a story. And by me calling that dog a psycho, I'm pretty sure that was DIY backyard bite work gone horribly wrong. After the after the entire situation happened, uh I did talk to the owners, and that's when they let me know that, oh yeah, the dog has at one point, torn to somebody's shoulder and also ripped the calf out of somebody else. But it wasn't the dog's fault. Somebody came up and was, harassing the dog and yada yada. No, after reviewing the video and seeing how everything was happening, how they were handling the dog and so on, it's absolutely environmental and owner factors that cause every single bit of that, right? And that's one of the cases where I say euthanize. Absolutely, that dog needed being euthanized. That dog was dangerous. Nobody was going to ever be able to handle that dog unless they were a very, very, very good professional that is willing to take the dog on. But I don't know any person of a professional capacity that wants to take on that burden when they're trying to run a business or work full time working with other people's dogs. Um, it's a lot, right? It's a lot, and it would be better off for that dog and everything around that dog if that dog was euthanized. So very acceptable to do. After I recommended that, Of course, they never contacted me again and won't answer when I call. So don't know what happened to that dog, unfortunately. Hopefully everybody's okay. So yeah, PTSD is real and she's valid in her concerns. If she never wants to work with the dog again, that's completely fine. But there's plenty of things that could have been done better. And the first thing we can do better is don't humanize the dogs. Treat dogs like dogs, just like the podcast title, right? Treat dogs like dogs. They're opportunistic predators with knives in their mouths, right? Remember that. And they're not humans. And if we start treating them like our little babies, that's when we have all these problems, right? Among other things, obviously. So that's what I got for you today. I hope y'all enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.